Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. You'll notice right now the ES is trading at the top end of the downtrending channel. You'll notice the channel can look something like this here as this market has been trading within it. Recently here, nice narrow range that has developed. This narrow range right here is packing some energy. And based off of the current market structure here, the current downtrending price action, the likelihood of another rotation down is very high. Now, price is testing the previous month's midpoint right here. We did get a strong pivot at that point yesterday. It's the third turn down off that level after the breakdown, so 4 bearish waves away from it, but with higher lows here coming in and kind of a wedge pattern developing. If price were to push through that level, it could open up strength that can take us as high as 4,200. However, this market has not been able to muster up the strength and the gumption to get going to the upside out of range very many times. So the expectation of that is low, and instead from this pivot high, we could be looking at a rotation back within the short-term range and perhaps through those lows for another primary rotation down within the downtrend here. So we're looking for expansion to come up soon. This early pullback to the previous session's midpoint, watch it very closely. If we start to see some weakness this morning, bears will be looking to sell into strength for a late day new low. That could also trigger a continuation downward. So are we going to see something like this play out here? Something like this, where we get a strong turnaround from a pivot high that leads to further weakness back within the range or lower? Or does price push through that midpoint here today and hold through it by the end of the day, which could lead to a chance at a small probability breakout to the upside? We'll see how that plays out here later today. Now the downside move, based off of the amount of compression that we've had over the last 18 to 20 days here, the expectation could be for a move somewhere in the 400 to 600 point range. 400 to 600 points from this high. 3,900 minus 400 would put you at 3,500 up ahead on a very short-term basis. You go down to 600, that's about 3,300 right here. So 3,300 and 3,500 could be the targets if this thing were to break down off of yesterday's strong pivot high. If we take a look at our the NQ rather, looking at the NQ here, you go a nice little move up to the upper end of the range, right? Nice little pushback to this zone. We do have this lower trading range here that is developed, and that's built some energy. We have the lower line that, again, in a downtrend, it's kind of like this line here. It breaks to the downside. It breaks hard. You see a major primary wave downward, and you get new lows. Again, one thing to keep an eye on is the previous high. That also coincides with the previous year's low. If price for some reason were able to get a strong push back above that zone there, that could open up a return back toward 13K, maybe even back toward 13.5. So right now, again, we're right at a very key inflection point in the chart. It's this level here, 12.2, that high yesterday, and we're pulling back a little bit in pre-market trading here toward yesterday's midpoint. We start to see some rejection or weakness off that area. Again, bears will be looking to defend morning strength for a sign or for a shot at late day weakness. That could trigger some weakness back toward 11.5. If we get a downside break off of this strong pivot high, we could be looking at about 1,500 points to about 2,000 points of movement. So from this strong pivot high of 12.2 minus 2,000, that puts you at 10.2 at the far end of that range. 1,500 points off that zone would put you at about 10.7. So somewhere between 10.7 and 10.2 could be the next downside target here off of this strong pivot highs. Again, watching prices above 12K here today and into 12.050. That could provide early top or early pivot high that could lead to an afternoon decline ahead. So we'll watch for that price action. We take a look here at crude oil. right here, crude oil pulling back tremendously, pushing through our previous low end of our previous support zone. We had 93 to 95 as our zone of support. This thing went all the way to 90.50, so 90.5 on that rotation. Since then, that was below the 200-day moving average. Since then, price has been above it and between the composite VWAP. So it's building out this little range right here. Is the down move done? I would say right now this is another bounce that could lead to a primary move downward. The fact that this thing is trading around 96 is very important, but really it's giving up the 106 level that really makes the most sense for a continuation downward. 106 down to 86 is a major 20-point market distribution for crude oil. Then you have the 106 up to 126 zone. Below 86 you have down to 66, and those are three great 20-point distributions that have developed. So to fail at 106 would suggest further weakness here toward 86. We're not quite there yet. This little pullback could be what sets this thing off to the downside. We could be having a fairly sizable gap down in oil-related stocks, oil refiners, and others as well. That could lead to weakness right out of the gate. So keep an eye on crude oil. A failure to get above 100 would suggest a rotation and a continuation back toward 86 below. Taking a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin up 2.6% right now. This one trying to find its way above to 22K. Every time it's gotten above it, it's kind of rotated back down, but this thing's trying to build out a base down here, trying to see a little bit of a strength. For the most part, Ether futures looks a bit more bullish. This one continues to look much the same. You know, you get your big drop, you go sideways. You get your big drop, you go sideways. Big drop, sideways. Even though we're at the top end of this sideways range, it's still sideways. You really need to break through the top and start trading that upper distribution here in order to signal some sort of a significant turnaround. And right now, just being at the top of the range, we could be right back to the bottom very quickly and just stay in range before we're ready to see the next major whoosh. But given the downtrend, given the fact that we still have a little bit more of this LVN to go, we still likely have another round of weakness up ahead, and any bounce could be seen as a trap opportunity by bears. Taking a look at ETH futures. Yesterday, this one had a big day, up about 15% or so. Today, this one's up another 5.7%. Now, this one does look a little bit more bullish. As a matter of fact, it has been more bullish. The 1,000 level has been significant support on three big rotations. 1,000 back to 1,600 today, as high as 1,633. That's a 60% increase in price right there, very, very quickly in a matter of 6 days. So 5 days. So this has been a huge rally in Ethereum when you just take a look at the short-term bounce that has occurred off the 1,000 level. 1,000, as we talked about before, we were running out of runway to the downside, especially given how much energy these ranges were developing. This next move could have taken us easily into 400, and then what? You're really running out of runway before it has to turn around. 1,000 right now seems to be the level at the moment. Doesn't mean it will be the low. We still have that 717 previous year's low that could be in play, although I've seen it before where Ethereum comes very close to that prior year's low and then takes off to all-time highs. So again, do we need to get that 717? Perhaps. We may not be done. Again, if Bitcoin needs another rotation down, perhaps this one gets one final leg. But to get back above the market structure highs on a short-term basis here is not bad. A higher low could suggest that we may be pushing higher. So again, we'll keep an eye on the top end of this range, 1250 or so, to see how it responds upon a retest. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.